One of the strangest parts about getting older is realizing that a lot of people are not living on their own terms. They're usually living by societal momentum. Everybody is looking around to see what matters right now. People are watching, buying, chasing, and then quietly adjusting themselves so they do not fall behind. If you're somebody who does not naturally do that, it can make you feel like something's wrong with you. It can feel like everybody else got the memo on what actually matters, and you are the one person still trying to figure out why any of it matters in the first place. I felt that way too in some small ways, like when people are obsessed with a new show or a new movie, and the conversation naturally forms around that. And if you haven't seen that new show or new movie, you can actually feel yourself getting socially demoted in real time. When that keeps happening, then you start wondering if staying true to yourself is worth all of the isolation that it sometimes comes with. But the older I get, the more I think this pressure has less to do with genuine interest and more to do with the fear of being left out, with the fear of looking unimpressive. And if you're not careful, you can end up spending years trying to stay current in ways that never become real enough to matter. That's why I want to talk to you about how to stay yourself, even when everyone around you seems to be chasing trends, status, and the next socially approved version of a good life. A few years ago, I had some dinner with friends from university. I haven't seen them in a few years. And I thought it was going to be one of those wholesome nights where you catch up, you see where life took everybody. Instead, that whole dinner felt like a measuring contest. The conversation kept circling back to things like work, salaries, school, career moves. And it didn't feel like people were sharing openly so everyone could learn from each other and catch up. It more so felt like there was a right answer to adulthood. And if your answer was too small or too simple, you could feel yourself shrinking in the room. What made it even stranger was when people started talking about how much they made. And it turned out I was the one making the most. You would think that would make me feel like I won something, right? But honestly, it made the whole thing feel worse. Because in that moment, the room shifted in a way it felt less like people were focused on building their own lives, and it felt like they were just measuring themselves against each other. And I feel like that stuck with me because I actually understood that mindset. A big part of how I got into this position came from chasing milestones, came from chasing status, the next thing that made me feel like I was moving up. But on the way home, I kept thinking about the cost of that mindset, right? Because more money is real, career progress is real, but I also think that there is an opportunity cost to living that way. Because there are years that you don't get back, stories that you can never live, and experiences that you postponed. So I feel like that night, I really felt it. I didn't want my life to become a series of milestones to hit just because other people respected them. I think I ended up wanting a life that actually felt like mine. I think that's the part that people miss about these trends. Trends don't just happen in clothes or TV shows or slang or social media aesthetics. As you get older, they turn into life scripts. They become career timelines, relationship timelines, status timelines. Everybody starts acting like there's a current version of success that you're supposed to keep up with. And if you're not actively upgrading something, then you start to feel like you're doing life wrong. And I feel like that's how people slowly lose themselves. They don't lose themselves in a big dramatic moment, but it's these small little compromises that stack up over time. You know, as a result, you end up taking interest in things that you don't really care about. You shape your goals around you to what sounds impressive instead of what makes you have a peaceful life or have a meaningful life. From the outside, it looks like you're winning, yes, but inside there's like a disconnect because your life starts to feel like a performance for a crowd that's always moving on to the next thing, and they're gonna move on from you. And I think that's the problem with building your identity around keeping up with the trends, because the standard, it doesn't settle. The crowd just moves on. If your identity depends on what's current and what's trending, it never has a chance to become something real. So I guess the question is, how do you stay yourself without becoming bitter or antisocial or feel like you're left out? And I don't think the answer is to reject everything popular just to prove that you're different. I think that's still kind of a version of letting the crowd control you. It's just in reverse. The point is to not hate every trend, every show, every ambition. The point is to become somebody who can look at what everyone else values and calmly decide, maybe that matters to you, but it doesn't have to matter to me. That takes honesty. You have to ask yourself what you actually enjoy, what kind of pace you actually want to move at, and what you're no longer willing to sacrifice in your life to chase. Because once you stop borrowing meaning from whatever is current, you have a chance to build a life that has its own internal logic. And practically, I think this has to show up in your week somehow. Just one real decision. Set aside time for something you enjoy that might not be socially assigned to you. That might mean skipping the thing that everyone's talking about. Spending time with family instead. Maybe it means not forcing yourself to watch the latest episode of something just to stay in the loop. Maybe it means doing just a good job at work without turning your identity into career escalation. I think the point is to remind yourself that your attention belongs to you first. I think a lot of people are exhausted because they confuse relevance with fulfillment. They think that if they can just stay current enough, informed enough, and impressive enough, they will finally feel secure. But most trends move too quickly to ever become anything real. They come and they go before they have time to establish themselves in the real world. And if you keep rebuilding yourself every time the crowd shifts, I feel like you're just going to wake up one day with a life that looks updated, but it doesn't feel like it's yours truly. That is why I don't think it is worth the time and the effort to keep chasing trends. Not because every trend is evil or ambition is bad, but I think it's because life is too short to spend all of it responding to what other people clap for. Some things are worth building slowly. Some things are worth protecting from the noise. Honestly, in some cases, you're going to feel out of place in rooms where people feel like they need to prove something. It's not worth the time and the effort to chase trends, again, because they come and go so quickly. I think it's better to spend that time actually living.